Hello, everyone. I'm Crystal.
I'm Kristen.
And this is Damsels After Dark, a show where we, your favorite damsels, deep dive into a book each week from cover to cover.
We will be giving a complete walkthrough while we rant, obsess, analyze all of it.
This week, we read The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue by V.E. Schwab. And you're in for a treat today because we have huge differing opinions on it.
Which we usually don't. So This is good.
Yeah.
Our review will contain spoilers. So if you don't want this book's secrets revealed to you, please come back and join us when you're ready.
Without further ado,
let's jump into it. So welcome back, everybody. This is our first episode in season 2. So glad to have you all come back with us. As you can tell, we have some changes, which we are so excited about.
We're trying different vibes. We got a new logo, got a new intro, new outro.
Yeah.
Beautiful white background.
It's gorgeous.
Yeah. When we first dove into our Damsels After Dark, we wanted like the dark, moody. But you know what? That doesn't translate so well on camera.
No.
If you're a fan from the very beginning, our very first backdrop was just black.
It was just black.
Yeah, and I didn't like the gold the first time when you bought it. I was like, oh, I guess we'll try it, but it was so pretty on screen.
Yes, it does look so much better on screen now. This white background just makes us, it just pops a little better with our darker lighting. So.
Yeah, this one is by far my favorite.
Yeah.
I'm happy about it. I feel like we can still be damsels in dark.
It's just like a romantic tone to it.
Yeah.
I think a dark romantic tone is always better anyway.
Yeah, I do too.
Yeah.
I like it a lot.
Yeah.
I like our changes. I hope you guys also are enjoying it. We've had a nice relaxing, well, not really a nice relaxing week. I mean, the pressure is not so much on, but like we're still on a every week schedule.
Yes.
So.
Yeah.
But I hope you guys missed us.
Yeah.
It's been 2 weeks since our last review episode. But nothing much has changed on our end.
No, we're being consistent. We're making sure we stick to our schedule so that way we can bring out the episodes on time. And even though we're a little slightly behind on recording, we'll definitely make sure we keep in touch with, as we go along. So we're still keeping track of comments and all that stuff. So yeah, please keep on involving yourself and everything with us and telling us what you feel and what you like. And, if you want to rant and rave with us about it, just give us your opinions. We enjoy it.
Yeah, it'll be fun, like we said in the intro, because Kristen and I have differing opinions on this book this time. So it'll be fun to hear other people's opinions too. And we are constantly looking for new books to add to our list, especially singlets, I like to call them.
Yeah, standalone.
The standalone.
I like that she calls it singlets. I don't want to change her from saying that. So
I forget the word.
Yeah, I'm hesitant to be like standalones, but like I prefer singlets. So.
I like the singlet books. So if you could just throw us your recommendations, we'd love to review them.
Yeah. And we're kind of going out of our element for these books, which is very hard for me to read. So I try to judge it not on the genre that I like. I try to judge it on its own genre, but sometimes it's really hard for me. This is one of those books, but I did try to keep an open mind during it, but I just ended up having, just different views on this one.
Yeah, sometimes I do try to venture outside of my norm because I don't want to get stuck in a rut. But also sometimes if you know what you like, why venture out any further?
Yeah. But I think the only reason for that is because you don't really know if there is a book out there that
is outside.
Yeah. And that surprises you.
That's why I'm happy that we're stepping out of here a little bit, because there are some books that I do like that I've read that have been standalones, and I do like them.
Yeah.
I find that sometimes they're good, sometimes they're boring as hell.
Yeah, but also the books in our genre, some of them I didn't like either.
Exactly.
There is a book, a singlet in this season that I don't like. That's in our genre.
Yeah.
So it surprises me that there's singlets that aren't in our genre that I think I'm starting to enjoy too. So
yeah, I want to try to incorporate some of the like hot talked about ones. Yeah. I think this is one of those. I think this is really high on a lot of people's list. So I'm glad that we included it because at least we can have our little say on a little bit of it. But I guess without further adu, again, deja vu, we'll jump into this one, which is a good segue into this book because that's essentially all it is.
Deja vu, with good reason. So this book is separated into 7 parts, and it's very, very big on time jumping, which I don't mind. Time jumping isn't. Sometimes it brings a lot of the intrigue to the story, and I do enjoy time jumping. As I do have to say, that's why I rated it at all. Is because there is intrigue to the story with the time jumping. It did keep me on my toes with wanting to know what was going to happen next.
I loved the back and forth.
Yes, I did enjoy that. I like that even in our genre. Our genre does that quite often. So I liked it. I like that. I like the time jumping, and it's cute because there's an illustration right at the first part of part 1, and it happens every part. There's a slight illustration, and it has to do with the story. I enjoyed that thoroughly.
It's funny that you say that because if I'm being completely honest, I didn't start paying attention to these until like the last 2 of them. I was like, what is this? I don't care.
I read the whole thing. I was like, oh, that's so cute. And I read the whole thing, and right in the beginning, it gives you a hint of the artists. And I really believe, and I think we kind of differ on this, I believe this is more of an art book. I enjoy art. It's one of my, I love it. It's fucking great. I know you do too. So I wasn't expecting this to be an art book, in my opinion.
I had no idea what this book was about.
Yeah, I did, but not quite. But that definitely threw me for a loop. So when it included artwork, I was like, oh.
Yeah, I don't know why. My brain was just, I skimmed past it in the beginning because I was like, okay.
Yeah.
It looked boring is why. Like the presentation of it was like, here's this. And it was here. And here's the and I was like, what the fuck is this? I don't care about this. And then when I'm in the story, I also don't care because I'm like, well, just get me back to the story.
Yeah.
So it wasn't until I noticed that one of them is a song. And it wasn't until I noticed that was, I was like, oh, these are actually art pieces within the book.
Yeah.
Didn't register for me.
Did you go back and look at it after that or no?
Nope. So this will be the time. There were a couple, like there's a drawing of a girl, which that was the first clue because then that drawing happens in the book. And I was like, oh, that must be what it was. And that must be why I pay attention to the other one that came. So the first, like, I don't know, 4 or 5 of them, I did not even pay attention to.
Yeah. You know, the first one, I just like, because I was like, oh, it's a little art piece. It's cute. It's got little birdies on it.
That's about as much as I did. I was like, but I'm not reading the rest of that shit.
I did. And in like the beginning, it tells you the artist, like for every art piece, it tells you the artist, it tells you the date, which was important because it got to tell you where it is in her lifetime.
Yes.
And also it tells you how it impacted, like the description, even though the artists won't remember most of them won't remember how they got the, I don't know, influence, I guess, to their art piece. This one in particular, it was a piece of her attachment to her family life that this was influenced by. So that's why I found it was very cute because she would go and she would stare at this piece, which we will talk about. But yeah, so it was cute. But in part 1, it starts off with a girl named Adeline, but we call her Addie, and it's in present time, and she's in New York City, and she is waking up in I don't want to say stranger's bed because it's not a stranger. She's waking up in a man's bed, and she's been there plenty of times before, and she's done this repeatedly, and she thinks about leaving his room, his house before he wakes up because he won't remember her, just like any other person she meets. She has an affliction where nobody remembers her. And so she feels like she doesn't want to play this game and she just wants to leave. So that way she doesn't have to do this, but she doesn't. She ends up playing the piano and he wakes up
and he sees her and he doesn't remember, which she knows. And she's, as you already mentioned, she's sort of deciding whether or not she wants to leave because it's always this awkward kind of waking up after your one night stand and then the person not knowing you and then thinking internally that, oh wow, they were so drunk last night that I don't remember you, and then having that awkward like pretend to know you or at least try to soothe over this awkward situation that's going on. She ends up lingering, so they have this awkward moment. But also
he has the awkward moment. She
doesn't know.
She's so used to it.
She's done this plenty of times, and specifically we learn with this guy as well. It's been like a month or 2 months.
His name is Toby Marsh, and she, in my opinion, this is my opinion, it's not, but she does. She, I think, handpicks a person once she becomes familiar with them to spend time with them, and she influences their, so to speak, if they're an artist, their artwork, she becomes their muse without them realizing she's becoming their muse, and she ends up influencing. Apparently they write music together repeatedly, and he has no recollection of it, but you'll come to find out she does influence him, and she does leave some kind of a mark on him.
Yeah. Because she plays a specific tune on the piano.
Yes. And then he writes it down.
Yeah, and he writes it down, and then that he plays. But that's the seed. She sort of plants seeds.
Yes.
And so that's the seed that she has planted for him, is this tune.
Yeah.
And she even says, she gives a little background on where they met. Obviously, he's a musician. She meets him at one of his shows, and she pretends to be a different... Well, she had pretended to be one girl, but then he said that the love of his life, his name is like Jess or something. So the next time they meet, she has morphed into a new character, or a new name at least, and is that. Because part of her curse is that she can't say her name, so she makes up names for everyone that she is. But this will be a growing theme, too, of her meeting people and then changing. It almost reminds me of a video game, because it's like you start something and then you learn. And she does this often, where she makes the misstep and then she gets a second chance to go over and redo it until she like beats that level.
Yeah.
And so I really like that aspect of this. And this is the first kind of...
Almost like a Groundhog Day type of scenario, where she's reliving the same, only with that particular person she meets. She'll relive it the way she chooses to every time she gets to change little things here. But they won't remember. Only she will.
Yes.
And today is her birthday, and she's wandering around the street. She doesn't really care that it's her birthday, because you'll find out she's lived for a very, very long time.
Yes.
She doesn't care. So what she's doing now is she's just walking the streets, and she ends up going to this place to steal clothes. And while she's changing, a ring pops out, and she has, in the book, she'll have an expression of that she loves it and hates it at the same time. It has an impact on her life in different ways, but she loves it and loathes it at the same time.
And it's also a ring that she can't lose. So it like falls out and it rolls underneath or somewhere else that she can't reach. And she's like, meh, it'll come back to me at some point.
She just grabs the jacket that she's with, and she heads out. And as she's, I don't think they say anything to her, but no one really pays attention that she just stole clothes, because no one really knows that she's there.
I mean, the lady does see her. So the thing is that Addie, when you put a door or a moment away from her, people forget. So the lady sees her come in, sees her grab clothes, but when she changes, and even if she were to have seen her walk out, the moment that door closes behind her, the person's going to forget what they were doing, that they were going to call for security, or who that person was. So, but all of that also is, her stealing is stemming from the fact that she can't hold a job because of this. She can't make money. She doesn't have a phone. She doesn't have a credit card. Like all of these things that the modern day world. And she's in, I think this is 2014. She can't participate in any of this. So
she can't create. That was another thing we forgot to add. She was in Toby's apartment, and she tries to write her name in the fog of the glass. She can't write her name. She can't say her name. Well, even if she can get to say her name, the closest she'll get is to Addie, and that's why we're just going to call her Addie. And so she can't create anything from scratch. It has to already exist, and she can have it she could take it with her, but she can't alter it in any way. And that includes people. She can't alter their physicality, which you'll find out when we talk about.
And she also can't tell her story. So she can tell it, but then it doesn't hit their ears.
No.
There's no comprehension behind it.
It's like a fog. They kind of go off into a trance or a distance, in their mind. So like we were saying, there's a time jump. And so now we're going back into the past. And this is in some city in France. I can't say this city. I don't know how. Sillon-sur-Sarthe.
Oh, yeah, no, I'm not even going to try.
So in France, in 1698, and this is a place where Addie grew up, so that tells you how long this is. And she grew up there with her family, and she spends a lot of time, particularly with her father, who's a wood carver in a wood shop. So this is where it goes back with that little art piece. And her favorite trinket is that ring, the ring that.
Yes.
And she wears it on her neck. And she usually goes with her father and travels back and forth to the market.
And it's a ring that her father made.
Yeah. And when she gets to be 12 years old, just so much when she's younger. Now when she's 12, she kind of just hangs out with this little old lady that's kind of not married, but just kind of somebody in town that everybody goes to and talks to. But her parents don't approve because she's not following the Catholic ways. And she just likes, I think she calls them the new gods.
She likes the old gods.
The old gods.
Because the new gods are the Catholic gods.
Yeah. And so she's not, the mom and dad think that she's some kind of witch or.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so that's her name, is Estelle. You know, just teaches her about the ways of the gods, and she
and just about ways of life.
Yeah.
That's outside of the constraints of this like Catholic old school version of even like the idea of what a woman should be. Like Estelle is unmarried, she lives alone, she has no children.
She just does her gardening,
and makes her poultices and her salad. Like she is a witch.
Yeah, I love Estelle.
I love Estelle too.
Yeah,
I love Estelle.
She gives her all this knowledge, and she gives on her, and Addie just like consumes that. She loves it.
Yes.
She's just looks up to her.
Yes,
and so they have their little talk about the gods, and I think Estelle tells her, is it here where Estelle tells her like, don't talk to the gods at dark in the dark.
Yeah, she basically says about like praying. Like you can pray, because she finds Estelle down by the river, dumping things in there, her trinkets and stuff. And Addie starts asking her about, why she's doing that. And she's like, well, I'm going to the river gods and I'm giving my stuff and I'm saying my prayers or blah, blah, blah. She says, you can pray to all of these gods, but be careful. But don't pray at night, because you don't want to know what gods will listen to you
at night. The gods at night are not the good gods that you would want to make deals with.
Yeah, you don't want them to answer your prayers.
So Addie is wanting to go with her dad to the market. I find this very fucking horrible. And she's 12, and mom's like, no, you're getting too old for that. And when Addie gets upset and tries to go to her dad, runs to the cart, her mom smacks the shit out of her, tells her no. She can't do that. So that is her childhood. And
Addie is able to go with her dad for a couple of years. Yes. Eddie goes to the market with her dad from like 12 to 16.
Yeah, and then when she's it's 12 years old, she tells her no.
Oh, at 12?
Yeah, at 12.
Oh, okay.
So when she's younger.
When she's younger, she goes, and this is the biggest town that she's ever been to.
Yeah.
So she lives in this small, 10-meter town with the same people that she is essentially going to live and die around. And then she gets to go to the town with her dad.
And they spend the night.
That's where he sells his trinkets. They spend the night. She does that for a couple years. And then when she gets around 12, she wants to go. And then her mom essentially is saying it's time for her to
grow up,
become one with the ways that you do, right? You get married, you have kids, and that's your life.
Yeah. So at 12, she's trying to tell her no, and she smacks her and doesn't let her go on the cart. And so that's her 12-year-old self. And then when she's 16, she's starting to notice the boys in town, and she's not getting the same. It's not the same back and forth with her and other boys. Other boys are starting to notice other girls, and the boys that are noticing her, she doesn't like. So she creates this image of a stranger in her head, and the image is a boy with black curls, pale eyes, strong jaw, sloping shoulders, and a Cupid's bow mouth. So she draws him and fantasizes about him and dreams of him and has these imaginary conversations about their love life together and how he spends time with her and stuff like that. She goes into a very big detail about this stranger.
Yes, she has created a whole person. And one thing we should mention too is that on one of her trips to the market with her dad gives her money, and then she goes and buys a sketchbook, and he gives her a pencil. And so she is an avid drawer.
Yeah.
So she didn't just randomly draw some dude. She really spent time formulating and perfecting this mystery man, this stranger of hers.
And so she's now that's her man. That's who she fantasizes about and has these intimate moments in her head with.
Yes. And it's important to note that though, because she is an artist. And so when we're seeing her in the beginning unable to create art, I think that's sort of where it starts.
Yeah.
It's
the only way she really could is because to influence others in order to continue her path in the art world.
Yes.
So in July 29th, 1714. So July 29th is an important day. She's being forced to marry to a man who is a widower, and she has 3 small children. The wife died in childbirth.
Yeah, so you're not even going to be a wife. You're the second wife. You're the sub-wife.
Yeah, you're pretty much having to take care of a family that wasn't even created by you.
Yeah, but I'm sure I have to pump one out anyways.
Yeah.
Addie is also 23 at this point.
Yeah.
And so she is unmarried, which is old for old time to not be married and still be living with your parents.
Yeah, so it's kind of shitty. She doesn't want to get married. She is opposed to it. Her mom's like, no, you're going to do this. She has a friend, I think her name's Isabel, and she pretty much agrees with this whole situation.
Well, Isabel's already married and has 2 kids pumped out.
That's just their way of life, and Addie doesn't want this, and Addie's against it, and so she goes and she runs to, she makes an excuse. she's about to get married.
Yes.
And she makes an excuse that she's got to go get a present for her fiance, or soon-to-be husband. And she runs off. And everybody knows that she's running off because they're screaming for her. And she runs into the woods.
Well, we forgot to mention that up until this point of the actual marriage date, she's been going to the gods consistently, giving everything that she has, begging for the gods to please save her. Do not force her to get married. She reminds me a lot of Belle in this whole beginning part because she's, you know, the whole like, there must be more than this provincial love. That's exactly Addie, like through all of this. And it's funny that it's even a town in France.
Yeah.
So she doesn't want this. So she's been desperately asking the gods. None of the gods have answered. And she has nothing left. She's literally given all of her possessions to the river god, essentially. And he has even asked Estelle, like, what can be done? And you know, obviously there's nothing. If the gods aren't going to answer, the gods aren't going to answer.
So she's now.
So it is her wedding day.
Yeah, it's her wedding day. It's gotten to the point.
The last moment that she has.
She can't. So she runs off and she goes to the. I don't even know if she realizes just because it's daytime, it didn't matter. She was in the shadow of the woods. So it was darkness. It's not the night or day. It's darkness. So
but it was also the sun was setting.
Yes, but it wasn't complete. It's not like complete night.
No, but
you just have to be into the shadow of the darkness because that is the thing.
But I think it also has to be moving from dusk because that was the switch. So it was that she was in darkness, but then also that it had switched from daytime to into dusk. Yes. So it was going into darkness's territory.
Yeah, and darkness it's fading. It's about to be complete dark, but like it is the beginning of darkness.
Yes,
and she's just in the shadowy part of the forest, which is darkness in itself. And she starts, you know, begging and pleading. Anybody, doesn't matter. She just needs to be free. She wants to be free of this. She doesn't want to be married. She needs an escape. She doesn't care who answers. And there's this voice that comes about and, you know, calls her name, like sultry, quiet, but loud at the same time. I don't know how that's happening, but it's like mostly in her head. I don't know if she realizes like whether or not he is a god or darkness yet or whatever. But when he comes out in the appearance of the stranger.
Yes.
Of her drawing. And she's just like shocked by this, you know? And so when he's talking to her, she's trying to figure out, I think he doesn't tell what his name is. He just says, I am a promise. I am the darkness. I am all this stuff. He doesn't say he's the devil. He says, I'm older than the devil and your God or something like that. And she just begs and begs and begs to like make this deal with her to give her freedom or whatever. And he's just like, choose your words wisely. I'm just not gonna.
Well, so she asks for
time,
freedom and time to live her life. And he denies her and says, no, I will not grant this.
Because I get nothing from it. You're just going to live unlimited and I'm not going to get anything from this.
And then also that it's not something that he could grant freely either because there were like, what does that even mean? You know what I mean? Without any sort of payment. And then so he denies it. And so his denial causes her to grow more desperate. And he asks her like, again, what do you want? Or tell me about all of this. So then she goes into a little more like, I don't want to live here. I don't want to get married. I don't want to do this. And he's like, you're telling me a whole bunch of list of things I need to know.
And he's like, well, what are you even going to offer me? And then she's like, I have this ring. And he's like, I don't want that. Like, that's not enough. Like,
yeah. And so she asks, what do you want?
Yeah.
And he says, I want your soul. And so she makes a deal for freedom, ultimate freedom, and life. And he originally doesn't want the soul because it doesn't make sense if he gives her life that he's never going to get the soul. So she just says, essentially, give me the ability to be free and live my life. And when I'm done with my soul, you can have it.
Yeah, freedom untethered. She doesn't want to be attached. Untethered.
Because she's thinking in her head, she doesn't want to be
married.
She doesn't want to be somebody's.
Yeah.
She doesn't want to be tethered. Married means that she belongs to somebody, and she doesn't want that. So that's the untethered that she's thinking of because she's about to get married. And he agrees he agrees to this. So essentially grants her, and then he grabs her and like he kisses her, and that's what seals the deal. He bites her lip and blood comes out.
And that's it. And that's the deal.
And that's the deal.
Yeah.
Well, and we don't. So the deal is this random.
Yeah. It's
unlimited life, untethered freedom.
Yes. And so like, there's no. He just makes a deal, but then he gets to choose. What you'll find out, he gets to choose the guidelines, the rules, the
terms,
all of it. She just didn't care. She didn't think about it. He even told her, choose your words. What is it that you want? He kept repeating it to her over and over and over again, and she just did not fucking care. She was so desperate.
Yeah, but I think that's yes, I agree. But that's also sort of his shtick, is to grab people at their most desperate.
Yes,
because they don't make logical decisions.
It is.
And she's 23 and extra desperate and stuck in this land and has no experience.
But there's accountability there.
There's accountability.
You gotta be accountable.
There's accountability for both of them.
Yes. Well, I mean, he's a god. His accountability is.
Yeah, but we can still hate him for the decisions that he made, even though he capitalized on her naivety. I can still be like, you're a piece of shit.
He is a piece of shit, sure, but like, people have warned her, and I'll get into this detail. People have warned her. Estelle has told her. Her mom said, we do our Catholic ways. We don't pray to old gods. He's told her no. And he said, if you are going to do this, choose your words better. And she still desperately pleaded and accepted this deal. So
yeah, it's fine. She has this deal, but she also wouldn't change it. So it's fine. She would change it in the years, but at the end, she wouldn't change it.
Yeah, 300 years later, she will want to change it.
Well, it was if she would make a different decision. Like if she knew this was the outcome, she would make a different decision.
Yeah, hindsight. It's always hindsight. But anyways.
It's always hindsight.
She picked this. She chose this. This is what she wanted. She pleaded. She got it. Made the deal. This is where she's at.
Well, this is not what she wanted. She wanted
the deal.
She wanted the deal.
Yes,
but the terms and services of the deal were not what she wanted.
That's not what I said. I said she wanted the deal. She got the deal. She got it. So she made the deal. She got what she wanted, which was the deal. And she went back to her little village, and she finds out that nobody remembers her. Not her mom, not her dad, not her best friend Isabel, not Estelle. She went and tried to talk to her mom. Her mom casted her aside. Her best friend cast her aside, and I think Estelle, she went to the next and told Estelle what would happen if I made a deal with darkness, and Estelle pretty much told her that was a stupid idea. So she went back to Isabel and ended up staying there for I think a little bit, and when she went to hold Isabel's baby, Isabel left the room, forgot her, came back, and then was fucking crazed that some strangers holding her baby.
Yeah.
So obviously that's not cool. And she kicked her out, and then she went back to her father's wood shop, grabbed a little wooden trinket, and she realized she can't stay there no more.
Yes.
So
she also realized a couple of the terms right away that she like tipped over some stain or something.
She tried to write to her dad and she couldn't.
Yeah, she couldn't write. She tipped over some stain that like spilled all over the place, but it ended up like absorbing and going away. She also dropped one of the birds and the wings broke, but then it mended itself. So she was noticing right then that not only could people not see her, but that she wasn't able to make a mark. Her existence was being erased.
Yeah. And so now we're at present time. It's another time jump. And she stands outside the club that Toby, the guy she was in the beginning with, and she just realized she didn't want to go back into the club, and she didn't want to play this game anymore where she was trying to impact his life. She didn't want to do this. She just didn't want to go through it. And she said to herself that the rise isn't worth the fall. That's what she says. And she just tries to sneak her way into different places with other people, like randomly throughout the time that she's in New York, just so that way she could get a place to stay. And in the meantime, she has a good time with these people. They enjoy her company. Yeah. She enjoys their company.
And essentially, the situation with Toby is showing you that she is able to have feelings for people, obviously, but she's unable to cultivate this longer. And then what Addie really wants is these like simple mornings where you wake up after
and they remember
her and they have these easy these easy moments where life just is, I don't know, more than just a second at a time. And so that's what we see with Toby, is that she desperately wants to keep this because she likes Toby. She wants to be with Toby, but she can't. So it's not worth the rise anymore to keep having these same first meetings over and over. And so that's why she leaves.
Yeah. And so she's doing all this is making her feel like she's losing herself because no one's remembering her. She can barely remember. She remembers everything, but she's also forgetting things at the same time. Like she remembers her parents, but she's not remembering completely the sound of their voices and stuff like that. She's lived hundreds of years. So
I think the terms of the curse is that she can remember everything that's within the prism of the curse. So everything that was before that, her childhood, is slipping because that's outside of the prism of the curse. So that's why she can't remember her parents so much anymore. She can remember she can't remember the stories her dad tells, but she can remember the way he tells them. So she has fog around there, but everything within the prism she remembers perfectly from the time the curse started until now.
Yeah. And so what she does is she tries to find moments in time of her life that she could go back and look at. And what she does is she realized that in the Met, there's this sculpture, which is the beginning illustration of these 5 birds. And the very last 5th bird has a broken wing. And it actually says a description in the sculpture, or near the sculpture, that this was found on the street in France, I believe. And it was mimicked, or I would say carved, influenced by some little bird that they found on the street that was its wings broken. And so they made the 5 stages of these birds based off of that one bird they found on the street. And she looks at it and she thinks, even though I never met that artist, and even though I know know where they found it or whatever, I know that bird is, even though it's not mine in particular, I feel like that is mine, because she had lost it. Yes. Which we'll talk about in a little bit. Obviously that was the same bird that she took from her father's.
Yeah. So this is the foreshadow of her being able to influence life, specifically art. And this is the first glimpse that we see of her recognizing that. Yeah. Though she's recognized it all throughout time because she sees this pattern and then she starts inputting herself in there.
This is the first moment. And the reason for that is because not too long after she leaves her hometown, she goes to this place called Le Mans.
So that's the big town that her and her dad used to go to.
And this is where she attempts to start stealing because she can't have any way of surviving at this point. And this is her first stages of trying to figure things out. And 2 men try to fight her off or hold her from the actual stuff she's trying to steal.
Yeah, she goes into the stable where the horses are, and she tries to go into a bag, and she almost gets out, but then the stable hand sees her.
Yeah, and she tries to fight them off, and she accidentally she takes the knife from the one dude, stabs him in his thigh, and then the guy pushes her off, and she gets stabbed by accident because he's going like this with a knife. So she gets stabbed, and then she runs off. And they try to follow her. And in the moment that she's out of their presence and they get out of the stable, immediately they're cleaned. There's no wound on the one guy. Their clothes show no sign of blood. She is also
fine.
Yeah. So it was nothing happened.
I love that this girl who has never really left her hometown, her first instinct is just to fucking stab someone. That's her go-to.
Yeah.
Didn't hesitate for a second. Grabbed the knife, stabbed the dude, got stabbed herself.
And then ran up.
She's got some street cred already. Her first town.
They're fine. Yeah, they're fine. And she realizes, I can't be here either. I'm going to Paris.
Yeah, well,
this starts a whole thing of her traveling. She realizes that staying put in this area is just not what she wants anymore.
Yeah, because that was the whole...
She wanted to travel.
That was the whole thing in the beginning. She just wants to live life. She didn't want to live and die in the same 10-meter square as everybody in her village was going to do.
Yeah, so she wants to travel. She wants to she wants to do things and see things, which you can't argue with that. Yeah. That's just, everybody wants, for the most part, everybody wants to do that. That is not happy with staying put in their same hometown. There are people who do, and that's fine.
Isabel was one of those. One of her best friends was content playing that role. Addie was not.
Yeah.
And also, Addie chose Paris because her dad's stories were from Paris. So of the queens and the dragons and cat, all of these wild stories and adventures came from Paris. And so she has these grandiose ideas of what Paris is going to be like. And of course, she's sorely disappointed when she gets there because it's a gross town. Or a city, I guess, and it's filled with
which is funny because present time, that's where she is, isn't it? I can say this because I'm from New York. She's in New York. She ends up now we're in the present time, and she's in New York. And this is March 12th, 2014, and she goes into a bookstore she's never seen before. Which I have to say, if I were Addie, living that long, seeing new things would just. Being surprised or any kind of new feeling or anything would just be wonderful.
Yes.
Because how else are you going to live? Which we've talked about this before, when God's in books, they're beings they're never gonna die. Like after a while you get bored, and you just do things to feel. So I would assume I'm going to take this as something that Addie does, because 300 years you're just going to do things for the feels, for the most part. So she goes to this bookstore she's never seen, and she wanders, and the bookstore's really cute name. It's called The Last Word.
Yes,
I love
like
it.
The Last
It was
Word.
really cute, really genius in my opinion. And she meets this boy who looks very similar to her darkness guy, her stranger, and his name is Henry.
Black curly hair, pale green eyes.
And there's cat named Books. I just had to add that in.
Yeah, I like Books. Books is cute. And Books like stalks within the book. So Addie first sees her like, or I don't know if the cat's a girl or a boy actually. When she's rifling through books, there's like a cat staring at her.
Yeah, it's cute. It's cute.
And then there's like this lady sitting on a chair too as well. And then there's of course like people in the shop. So
and she realizes that everybody in the shop is kind of like being really like sweet on this guy that's in there.
Yeah. Well, there's a girl that's flirting with him right up at the very front. Some blonde girl's flirting with him, and he's not really like paying much attention to it.
He could give two shits. He doesn't fucking care.
Yeah.
Which in my opinion would sound normal because this boy sounds beautiful.
Yes.
So why wouldn't he be used to this kind of thing? Which I kind of have a little bit of an issue with. Not the issue that he's beautiful, not the issue that they're flirting. Just well, I'll discuss that later. But, so he sounds like a beautiful man, and he's being flirted on, and he's just like, you would assume that he's sick of this because he is a beautiful man. It happens all the time, which it is. It does happen all the time, apparently, recently. So Addie grabs a book, and just while he's distracted or whatever with all this going on, the Odyssey. Which I find really funny because it's also a book we're going to read in the future.
I thought that was funny too.
Yeah. And she takes it, and it's written in Greek, and she leaves the bookstore. And Henry chases after her, and is like, "Wait!" And this is actually kind of funny to me.
I love this moment. I love this.
There's two moments with her and Henry that I do really enjoy.
I love both of these. Both that have to do with this right
one
here.
and the book in particular. And so when she goes and tries to stop her, and he's like, "Why are you stealing this book?" In the Odyssey, like that's a weird choice.
And it's in Greek.
It's in Greek. And so she's just like, "Yeah, I guess I should steal a book that I could read."
Yeah.
Which is crazy because she can read in Greek, but she makes this joke, and he's just like, he's not having it.
No, he's upset because, he works at this bookstore.
He likes this bookstore.
Yeah.
This is probably the only real thing that he likes right now. And I think Bay, I think her name is. I don't know who comes out. I don't remember. But somebody comes out and says, "Hey, do you want me to call the cops?" And he's just like, "No, just a misunderstanding." And he tells...
And she offers to pay, and he's like, "No, just fucking take it. Yeah. Like, go and just don't come back to my bookstore."
Which is funny, because like later in the future, which we'll talk about, is like, what? Like,
yes.
But I like this part. There's not a whole lot of parts of this book that I enjoy. I enjoy this part.
I love this. And I also love this transition. Just like blew my mind because we leave right here. She's like, "Okay, I'm going to go take this book." And then he turns and goes to the store. And the next thing is Henry's POV. We literally switch to the next section. This is
part 2 that's coming up. So part 1 is now done. Part 2, in the beginning, I do have to say the illustration because I love the illustrations. It's a painting of the sky with 7 distinct stars. And it's...
which we forgot to mention in the beginning, Addie's, which drove me crazy in the beginning for like the first couple pages, the talking of her freckles. She has 7 freckles across her face.
I fucking hate this. But
it was for like it does become relevant. But I'm telling you, when I'm reading it for like the 5th time in the beginning, I was like, why am I hearing about her freckles again? I don't care.
That's not fucking so special.
No. But she has 7 distinct freckles that are like a constellation around her face. Okay, so just know that about Addie.
Yeah, but there's 7 stars distinct in this fucking painting.
Yes, there are.
And it's painted by a girl named Sam. I'm not going to get into too much detail about the rest of it, but apparently she paints people as skies.
Yes, which is such a great concept.
I loved it. I read that. I was like, I do love references to art in this book.
Yes, I do too.
I enjoy it. Yeah. So that was probably the one thing that was keeping me going besides Okay, so anyways, part 2, it goes to POV.
It goes to POV of him literally walking into the store after this situation. And then we he's talking to his friend, which we learn is Bay, which is the girl that came out, and she just sort of sits there and hangs out at his bookstore, which isn't really his bookstore.
It's not a library.
It's not a library. He says her all the time.
I like that.
She's just there like reading the books and putting them back. But
I like that. Like I like her relationship with him. It's just, I'm going to come here. She's also an artist.
Yes.
And she's looking at these books, and she had seen referencing to artwork throughout the years, like 300 years.
Throughout the decades.
Yeah.
centuries.
Yeah, that there's a same girl in almost every one of these works of art, and she's like wanting to write a thesis on it.
So she's an art major, and she's working on finding a thesis. She keeps getting denied, which we'll learn later, but it's not really important. But that is the important one, is that she has drawn a connection, and Henry kind of said, nah, it's not. Yeah. It's other works inspiring other works, or it's just a coincidence, or just things like that.
That does happen.
It does happen.
One artist will take another person's art and then influence it based off of that. It does happen.
But she had some reasoning for why that wasn't true, and eventually he'll come to realize that it was actually true what she was saying. So we walk in, and it's them in the him talking about the situation, and then telling her it's on the library. We learn that these two are friends. He works at this bookstop, doesn't own it, but the lady who owns it is like off gallivanting around the world because her husband died or something, so he practically owns this bookshop.
Yes. And so while he's there, Bay, I think, tells him that he's supposed to go to some show with to see his ex, which is now his friend. So Henry is bisexual.
Yes.
Which I thought was a really good touch to the story.
I did too.
Yeah, I do enjoy stories where you're not set on one sex, because it makes the story, it's a good story.
And he explains when they do that. He falls in love with a person, and it's irrelevant of the gender.
Yeah, I genuinely think that's really fitting for this story.
Yes.
Especially in the art world. It's very just
fluid.
Love for love.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not stuck on something. And I like this, but I'm probably going to say something mean about the Henry situation later in the future, which I don't tend to be mean about it, but I want to throw this in there real quick. He gives me Ted Mosby vibes from How I Met Your Mother.
I can see it.
Slightly.
If it weren't for the fact that I got his POV, and I can see his thinking and his childhood, and I can see all of this, I would 100% agree with you. So on the surface level, yes.
And it's like Ted, it's here, there, it's sprinkled.
It is.
It's not like every time I read it, I'm like, he's so fucking Ted Mosby. It's sprinkled throughout for certain things he does, and I'm just like, I can't help but think, fucking Ted.
Yeah. Yes, I agree with you, though he doesn't annoy me like Ted Mosby does annoy me.
Yeah, Henry doesn't annoy me. I just feel like his character, I'll talk about that later. Anyways, so they go to this, they end up going to the show for Robbie, and it's like a Midsummer's Night's Dream thing. And Henry's watching it. And at this point in time, I have to be honest, I'm not quite understanding his relationship with his friends and family around him. And I think it's meant to be that way. It's very like there's something not spoken right now. And I'm kind of trying to figure out what that is, because he's sulking, but even it seems like everybody loves him. So I'm like, I'm so confused at this point. I don't know if you picked up on that right away, but I was like, why is he sulking when everybody loves him? Because at this point, he's sulking.
Yes.
He's watching Robbie's performance, and he's telling himself, we can't be like this or whatever.
Yes.
Like, we can't have it. But it seems to me when Robbie does see him, it seems like Robbie's
extra happy to see him. And
then actually, Bay and him make a conversation about how he's not allowed to talk about somebody for her, and she can't talk about Tabitha. Which I think
it's like a professor that she was with.
Yeah.
They don't go into detail.
No.
But essentially, some exes are off limits for what we're talking about.
Yeah, and Tabitha was we're just going to say it was somebody he proposed to, and she said no.
Oh, for Tabitha, for her. Yes, sorry. I'm thinking.
She can't.
Bay's one is a professor who she was with, and that her name was not Tabitha, but his is Tabitha. Yes.
Yeah. And so he proposed to her, and she said no, which they'll get more detail later. But Robbie was also an ex, and he's sulking in that moment, too, that they can't have what they would ever have. It's not possible anymore.
And these are high school friends, because I think they dated.
Yeah, they did in high school.
They dated in high school. Him and Robbie dated in high school. Yeah.
And like the other relationship, he talks much about how all of his relationships are going to shit. But I don't see it right now. I'm just like, I don't understand how they're all going to shit when he seems like he's got really good friends that love him and support him, but he seems very down about it. Like even now, and I'm just like, it's just a hint. You just get a hint of it. I don't think it's really heavily shown yet, but I noticed it at the Robbie, because Robbie comes out and something's just really weird about that situation.
Oh, see, for me, I took it that I thought that he was still, I didn't realize how far away the relationship was.
Yeah.
Until he actually starts talking about when their relationship was. So for me, this instance felt like he was watching an ex and he was sad that they weren't together anymore. Like, it was a more recent split and that he actually really still had feelings for Robbie. That's how I took it. Yeah. That's why I took he was sulking, because he was like, he looks brilliant up there. Look at how lovely he is. And he's so great, because that's what he's thinking in his head. Yes. So I think he still has feelings for Robbie when I'm reading this.
I'm thinking, I'm actually thinking the opposite. I'm thinking, oh, me and him don't work out. It was a mutual thing. And I see that he's happy and I'm happy for him, but I'm not happy. And I'm not happy because I'm not with him. It's, I wish I was as happy as him. We split up and he's having a good life, but yeah, I'm not having a good life. That's how I took it as, like, almost like he was jealous that his ex was flourishing, even though he cares about him still. But for some reason, he probably sees that their ending of their relationship was because of him, because he was sulky. Yeah. And he continues that when they get together after the show and Robbie hugs him and Robbie's so happy and look at me, you know, which you should be. It's a show. And Robbie and Henry is still supportive. I'll give him that. But like when Robbie goes to hug him and stuff, he just thinks it could never be. So I feel like Henry accepted that they can never be.
Yes. But I think he's so sad about it.
Yeah. And I couldn't understand, like, okay, why are you sad about it? Because you, in the same sentence 5 seconds ago, you were saying we can't talk about Tabitha because I proposed to her. So I'm like, what?
Well, see, yeah, that is those two are the confusing. Yeah, but I did think that he still had feelings for Rob, and that's why I thought that they may have mutually broken up, and that they couldn't be together, and they both understood that, but that you could still be sad for that. Yes. But then when I learned how long they had not been together, that's when I was like, that doesn't make any sense. Why he's still so sulky? Yeah, because you're talking about. We learn eventually that he's 29. Yeah. Or 28 and he has a 29th birthday. Anyway, he's too old to be worrying about a relationship that happened in high school.
See, I didn't even get that. I didn't even get that far yet. And I already assumed, like, why would you be engaged to somebody else yet if you still have feelings for Robbie? So were you, like... Yeah. Is that why you broke up? But you proposed. You were the one who...
But then I thought maybe he didn't want to be gay. Or, like, not gay, but, like, maybe he didn't want to be with a man. Like, and that was the thing. He wanted to be with a girl, but he still loved Robbie. I don't know. There's a lot going on right here.
Yeah, there was so much right here that there was, it just gave you a room for, like, what? So, but
to know that something was weird.
Yes. Because I felt it right here. This is where I felt it. Yeah. So after this, we go switch back to Addie's POV. And Addie is making her way up to a rooftop. You got to remember, Addie can't keep places. So she does what she can. But she goes to an apartment complex to a female, which Addie also is bisexual. So she goes to, I'm assuming she could be more than just bisexual, could be pansexual or whatever, but she is both seeing male and females.
Yes, both of them are. So
yes. We'll just say that. She goes to a rooftop to an apartment complex that she used to go to frequently to see a female.
Same situation with Toby, essentially. But with a girl.
But this is somebody she stopped seeing. I think Eddie comes to terms with stopping seeing certain people because she just doesn't want to continue because I think she's catching feels. And they're not going to catch feels back. So I think that's when she stops.
I think that's the struggle. It's that she has the feelings and she wants to continue it, but then it's fake. It's fake.
It's fake. And in my opinion, I think she starts to realize it's wrong. Probably. I think it's wrong. Yeah. And I'll get more detail about that. But I think she ends up going unconscious as well. Like she loves these people. She does care about them. And then she gets conscious that she just can't do this no more.
Yeah. I mean, I think there's something to be said. Like, yes, I think there's an argument to be made that what she's doing with the time that she's with him is wrong. But at the same time, I'm understanding her point of view that sometimes she just wants to be selfish and feel these feels.
I agree.
And so it may be generally wrong to be doing this. I'm happy that I'm not faulting her for it. I'm like, yeah, it's not great because she's not like, this is not a year-long affair that she's doing this, right? She's doing it for a couple months and then she's understanding, I need to move on. I can't keep doing this for herself and for them, but I can't fault her. She just wants to feel.
Yeah, I have a little bit of a slight different take on this, but we initially do agree on that. I agree. I can't fault her in a certain point of it. I can't, but I also get kind of disgusted and irritated with it with a certain person. There's a certain person in this book that I get upset with, but there's also a certain person in this book that I see why she does it with. So we'll talk about that later. But anyways, she's up the rooftop. She's with this at the apartment complex of the person. She has to understand that she's probably going to bump into these people. Yes. So what she does, she bumps into the girl that she used to see, and her name was Sam. And Sam is up there with two other people. But Sam comes over because Sam always, like, appreciates the beauty. She's a painter. She's a painter of that starry sky. And she comes over and she flirts with Addie for a little bit.
Yeah, right away.
And so, that ends up what happening. I think Sam and the girls leave at that point because, and then Addie's just up there reading the Odyssey.
Yes.
Which I think is cute. And she passes out.
And she falls asleep, yeah.
And so then I want to say right after that, it goes to
flashbacks, to Paris of Addie trying to find a place to be, and she goes all over Paris, and some places won't rent to her because she's a female, some places all kinds of reasons. And essentially, this is way in the past when a woman can't even walk down the street alone by herself in the daytime and the nighttime without people whispering, especially at night. Now to everyone she's a whore, essentially. This
part actually cracks me up. Not her being a whore, but there's a part where she passes out in the cold, and like this is the time where people are getting sick and dying in the streets.
Oh yeah, this is when the bird. That's the bird.
Yeah.
So essentially, she makes it to this this one inn, and it's a lady that's there, and she has a back and forth, and she says, "I just know to stay here." And I think Addie has managed to take like 4 shillings or whatever the hell they were. Was it a coin? I'll just call it a coin.
Yeah.
She gets 4 coins. She manages to get that, and she goes, and the lady is saying, it's going to be 3 right up front, and you can stay for the week or something. And Addie's like, "Can I get a receipt or something?" And the lady's like, so offended.
Yeah.
And basically like, "I've been running this for 30 years. You don't need a receipt. I'll remember you."
Yeah, you will.
Yeah. So she shoves Addie into this room, and I think Addie manages to just spend the night, but in the morning she's kicked out.
She's kicked out.
And she kind of knows it's happening, but she doesn't have enough time to like grab everything. Well, yeah, I think she grabs enough. She doesn't have anything. She's got like jacket and
she grabs the bird.
And then she's thrown out. And then it's like the middle of winter. And then so she does curl up like on the side of the street, and then she dies. And she wakes up in the next chapter, and she's like in a wagon with bodies just over her, dead bodies. And she wakes up.
Like, I'm not dead.
People are like freaking out and like I think there was a woman there that was saying like prayers or something, like scared that she was some zombie.
And in the process, she realizes that she doesn't have the bird.
She left the bird.
Yeah.
But I love this writer so much. I love the way that she writes, and in here she says something about like how this isn't the reason why I love the way that she writes, but this particular thing, she says something about like how she's happy to have the burden have lost because now she's no longer worried about.
Yeah. She's not attached to anything.
She's not attached to anything. So this big burden is gone that she doesn't have to worry about losing it all the time. And these like small little things, I just love them throughout this entire book.
I do enjoy that. But I do enjoy how she lost it.
I feel she's so like philosophical over here, but yes, I do love that she lost that. I love that she was piled in with a bunch of dead bodies. That she died and woke up there.
I love it. So like I said, I don't really enjoy this book too much. I found it very boring. But there's parts of this book, and there's parts of the book that I was just like, that's pretty good. I'll give her that, and I'll discuss that later. But like, I just thought that was a genius part, because in France, people were being put dead bodies on the cart. So I like that they still did the times.
Yes.
I wish she would have done more of that. And maybe we could argue that because this is a standalone, she didn't have time for that. And, maybe that's probably one of my reasons why I shouldn't read standalones anymore. Or her singlets.
Singlets.
But I feel like I would have loved a little bit more of Addie in those times. Like doing things in that time. Like the cart thing was referencing certain things in that time. Like
there are small references there, but I could see.
I just wanted more.
Yeah.
I especially if I was going to be going time jumping back and forth, I want the time jump. I want, especially if we're doing art, I would have liked description of the buildings a little bit more, or just something. I just felt like we were just in the time, and maybe it's because it's her POV and shit's hectic and she's trying to survive. She don't want time for that shit.
And that's what she says often, right? Is that like history is just seen from the back end. And like that's what history is. But if she's here living it in every day, every moment, then it's not history. It's not that. It's just another building, another second that she's standing there.
Yeah, and I agree to that. But I think at certain points she should have taken the writer, the author of this book, should have took advantage of her, like when she walks into the museums or stuff like that. She's only talking about one piece in particular. Maybe that's all she cares about. But like, when she's with the artists and doing certain things, it's just I felt like there wasn't so much of a description of what was just one singular focus, and we're forgetting the back area of everything that's going around. And I would have liked it a little bit more, just a little bit. But the cart thing with the dead people definitely put me in that time frame, and I loved it, and it was great. I like that.
It was great. I think we skimmed over and should probably mention one of the ways that she manages to gather some of those coins that she ends up losing, because she gives the lady 3 of them, but she essentially sells herself on the docks, and that's her first intimate moment. Like that's her losing her virginity, is to some drunk dude on the docks who gave her some money.
Yeah, because someone told her, like, you're just a whore walking around. You just go to the
one
docks.
of the inn people said that to her until she went to the docks and she made her money. One of the things that I like the most about Addie is that she is sort of willing to get dirty and do things that need to get done. Stabbing a man, being on the docks. Later you'll see she's just fucking walking through or sleeping in, like here she's sleeping in the fucking ground. Like she's not like prim and, oh, I can't do that, or oh, I'm too good for this, or blah, blah, blah. She's just fucking does
resourceful too.
She's resourceful.
She is. I'll give her that. There's some things that Addie drives me crazy in. I feel like she takes a little bit. She's like you said, she's gritty. She does what she needs to do, but I think she takes a little bit longer than necessary to figure things out.
She's got all the time. She's got all the time, but she's not in a rush.
That's what drives me crazy. It's like, yeah, she's got all this time in the world, but it's just like, but can we not? Can we do something different? And she just keeps doing the same thing. It takes her a little bit. She even says herself, it takes her a little bit to learn how to do things, but she holds herself and she keeps doing it.
Yes,
she's determined until she learns to do it. And she does it. She finally learns. But it's like, in my opinion, it's 300 years later. She still gets caught stealing. She's just like, girl.
Yeah, we're not going to be perfect at
300 years and just a regular average man in a bookstore is just catching you stealing a book. Like,
well, that was a specific circumstance.
How have you gotten better?
That one doesn't count. That one of her getting caught does not count because that's a specific thing.
But she gets caught like years later, even like not even just Henry, but like, oh my, you get caught so easy, girl. Get better at this. Go and hang out with a bunch of gangsters. Do it right. Do it better. But yeah, it's not just the stealing. It's just like, I think after a while, though, she knows certain points she can't get hurt or she can't die. She's just like, fuck it.
She just doesn't care. And also with the times too, things are changing. We got all kinds of different security measures in the future. Like, I'm not saying she's perfect at stealing, but
what I'm saying is we got people who've only lived like maybe 50 years and they're better at it than she is at stealing. It's like, girl, let's get better at this. Like, don't get caught stealing anymore. I know you can heal, but like, do you really want to get stabbed again? Do we want? No, I don't want to read about it anymore. I don't want to read about you getting caught. She gets caught. Let's just be honest. Almost every fucking time. Almost every time. Maybe that's because that's the only part we read about, but like I think she should get better. There's 300 years, Addie. But I digress.
And so the next scene too is she's drinking, or she drugs a dude, essentially brings him, pretends that she's going to sleep with him.
Now see, this is good.
Yeah, see, I like that.
She's learning.
Yeah, she is learning, and I love how she's learning.
Yes.
That she's had to like experiment for where she could put the poison, and it's not like anything fatal. It's just to put him to sleep. But she has to learn that essentially she can't pour the poison into his drink. She can't give it to him. She has to pour it into the bottle, recork the bottle, and then he has to be the one to pour it into the drinks, because essentially it's him taking it off.
Yeah.
And him being in control.
Because she can't create anything, so he has to concoct the creation of alcohol.
Yeah.
and some substance to put him to sleep. She says the substance, it's not that. He's not gonna die.
Yeah, he's fine.
Yeah, so
she just needs a place to sleep, and she doesn't want to sleep with him. So.
She needs a place to slay.
Well, so anyway, I think she steals coins or something.
Yeah, she takes from them. She changes her clothes. She gets a shower, whatever. Well, not showers, the olden times.
But essentially, just know that through the course of these, she's also learning the edges of her curse and the things that she can and cannot do, which is,
and this is still early, so I'll give her credit here.
I was about to say, it's going to take a couple years.
Yeah, but when she's in 300 years later and she's still getting caught stealing in New York
City. But look
City,
at how like nuanced this is. Oh, okay, I would would be so frustrated. Like, oh, okay, I can't pour it in here, but I can put it in the bottle and recork it, and that's fine. That would be so hard. That would take 300 years to find all the little fucking
see, that's
holes.
what I'm saying. She figured this out in a very short period of time, but she still gets caught stealing.
When?
Like,
when does she get caught stealing now?
Henry.
But Henry, she gets caught by Henry for a very specific reason. Because if Henry didn't have what Henry has, then he wouldn't have caught her.
Well,
the same way the girl at the store.
He forgets her, but
he doesn't forget her.
No, he doesn't. He can't forget her, but like he still sees her do it.
Yeah,
and
but
he follows her out.
It doesn't matter anymore if they see her.
No, he followed her out. So see, that's why she doesn't understand yet that he didn't. Which we're not going to say it yet, but she didn't catch it yet because he still wasn't like out of her sight. He was in her sight the whole time, so that's why she didn't figure it out. Yeah,
but what I'm saying is she is so used to just having to get out of their sight that it doesn't matter if they see her. It doesn't matter if she grabs it in front of their face and walk, because all she has to do is put a door.
Well, then at that point, why not just grab the book and walk out? Why pretend that you're going to hide it?
Well, because he had just happened to make it out farther. She wasn't expecting him to be that close behind. She could have just taken off running. She should have done that.
I'm saying is that why some things is she like really good at, but then there's things that she does on a daily basis and she's still like, eh.
I just think that she's just done it for so long, and it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if they see her in the act.
I don't know.
She could have run from Henry, but for some reason she just decided to not. And I mean, I can understand that after doing repetitions, like maybe I'm gonna stop and see what he has to say. Let's see how this one goes. Yeah, like I think
she's still really shit at stealing.
Well, she doesn't care about getting caught in the moment because all she has to do is walk away.
If she doesn't care, then just walk away with it. She actually attempts to hide it.
Yeah, well, the one with Henry. I mean, she was just kind of
like, girl.
But I think it's more of just, again, like I said, you've done this 100 times. Like, let's see how this goes. Let's try a different path. Let's talk about it. Let's pretend to hide it. I think that if she really didn't want Henry to see it, she would have.
I don't think that's the case. I think she just really was sloppy. That's my opinion. Like, I mean, it shows because she even attempts to hide it in a sloppy way, and it's like, girl, it should be a natural. 300 years, you should be a.
Yeah, but she doesn't. But she's done it. She's already mastered.
That's what I'm saying.
So I'm saying, if you've already mastered it, maybe you want to try something else.
I don't think she wanted to try anything else. I think she just didn't care and she was sloppy.
Well, I don't know. I guess we disagree on that because I think if I had perfected it 300 years ago and then some dude catches me and he's kind of cute, I'd be like, oh, maybe I should have stole something I could read. Maybe I'll throw a little flirty and see how that goes.
Yeah, I don't think it.
Because she could have just took off running.
Well, that's what I'm saying. If she really wanted to, she did it. But that's why I said she's sloppy. Sloppy is knowing you know how, and you still do it sloppy.
But she's doing it sloppy because she doesn't care to do it perfect that time.
Well, that's what I'm saying. It should be natural now.
But it's not always natural. There are certain things, but you have to make a conscious decision to be like, watch him to make sure he doesn't see me grab it. Like, that takes effort. Sometimes it's easy to just be like, man, I'll walk out.
Well,
I don't really
that's
care.
what I said. She still attempted to hide it.
Yeah, and I think that's more just for the game of it, the fun of it.
You just fucking walked out with it. Like, I feel like if she was essentially trying to steal it, she would have done it. I think it's just inconsistent. I think some things she's like really good at, and then some things she's just sloppy. And I'm just like, girl, like, that's what I get irritated with. And the getting caught, I love the part with her getting caught with the book. I'm not saying I don't. I do. I just like, girl, that was sloppy. And if you wanted to get caught, then you should have just been obvious. If you wanted to flirt with them, you should have just been. You're 300 years old. Playing this game is just. It's just like, it annoyed me. I feel like she's still that 23-year-old.
But she is.
No, she's 300.
Well, but in her
I feel like she's still
soul, she is still just.
I don't know how you could, in my opinion, go through it, which I already know, all the stuff in the book, and then still be, I don't know. I feel like she didn't, and this is one of my qualms too. I feel like she didn't really age with her age in some aspects.
I agree.
And it drives me crazy. Because in my opinion, 300 years, you're either you don't fucking care and you just like do whatever, or you play little games like the gods do, or you just actually come to some really good enlightenment.
Yeah.
And I think at some level she's just inconsistent with her character on this, and that's what drives me crazy. There is no real like on what her character is 300 years later. It's still all over the place.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like her character is consistent, but I feel like it's consistent in its inconsistency because Addie is just all Addie wants is just fun and life. That's all she wants. She doesn't want, and that's where we differ on like how she makes her mark on the world, whether that's something that she really wants. Because to me, she's just a girl who didn't want to get married and wanted to be Estelle and just live free and see the elephants in Paris. That's literally all she wants to do. And so it doesn't really matter that she's sloppy in something. It doesn't matter that she perfects this. She just wants to find the edges of her curse so that she knows how far she can get and just live her life. She wants to have fun. She doesn't care about enlightenment. She doesn't fucking care about that. She just wants to keep seeing the beautiful things.
I'm saying there's different aspects of like somebody who's been around for, I would say, 300 years. They end up finding their niche, and I don't think she does.
And I don't think that she wants to, because that's the thing that drives her is the keep seeing, keep exploring, keep finding new things, never settling down into like, this is the answer and this is the enlightenment. She is constantly just a 23-year-old just having fun and experiencing life. That's all she wants to do.
Yeah, but she's not 23, and that's what drives me crazy.
Well, is she or is she not? Because she's not human. So she's not human anymore. She doesn't age. I feel like she's locked into, almost like a manacled, she's locked into this prism of it.
But she's not locked into it. She's not, because the reason why I say that is because he even tells her, you don't have anything to do with this. So when we'll get on that later, but like, she's not locked into it because she even tells herself she's going mad.
Yeah, sometimes she has gone mad.
Yes, and it's because of certain things, which I don't want to say yet because it's really hard to explain my point of view on this yet when we haven't gotten to most of the book. But right now, as in this point, I understand everything because she isn't aged. We're still going back in time. We're understanding her. So right now, I think there's a lot of consistencies. But when we get to future her and present her, that's where I feel like it's not her past that bothers me. It's her present that bothers me.
But I feel like it's the same person.
And that's the problem I have.
I guess I can see why that would be a problem. You expect a 300-year-old to mature. But for me, I like that Addie is just, she's almost like a wild free spirit.
And not mature in a sense where you got to be like grown I don't think her process has matured. I don't think her thinking has matured. And like in who she really wanted to be. And I know you say that she is who she wants to be. She wants to do all this. I don't think even with all that traveling and life and enjoyment, I don't even think she's reached the pinnacle of who she does want to be. And that's why I'm not saying she should be some like business person or find a job or own a house. I'm saying in her own rights and her own respect, I don't feel like she's even reached the pinnacle. I feel like she stayed put back into what she wanted. All that shit that she said that she wanted, I don't even think she has reached the pinnacle, even at 300 years of her freedom. She has this time and ability to do anything, and I don't even think she's utilized her curse to her advantage. That's where I have a problem. Because I don't think anything's wrong with the way she wants to live. She wants to live that way. But she says she wants these things, but I don't think she's using her curse to her advantage to be able to do those things freely.
But all she wants is freedom.
She does,
untethered freedom and time to live her life. That's all she wants.
And I don't think she's using it to her own pinnacle advantage.
And I think that's where we disagree on her character, because I think that she is.
And
that's why I like her so much.
I think she could be so much grander in her ideas and thoughts, and she's in the art world. There's just so much stuff she could do, and I don't feel like she says she wants freedom, but I think she's still tethered. And that's what bothers me. And I'll explain why. So I think her dwelling on her curse is actually tethering her. And it's keeping her stagnant, and it's not allowing her to perfect who she is as a person, and it's actually holding her down.
But the curse itself is holding her down.
Yes.
So she's never really going to perfect.
And this is why I don't like the ending of the book either, and I'll talk about that. Because I feel like your curse, and maybe it's the way of life I live, but anytime something's wrong or horrible, you don't necessarily have to hold it and keep it and make it seem like it's preventing you from your own greatness. And I think her curse is what she sees, and she doesn't allow herself to do the freedom of the things. Yeah, I know there is certain freedoms in what she's doing, but I think she still tethers herself to things and to people and she wants this freedom of life, but yet she's still, I feel like she says she wants this freedom, doesn't want to be tethered to anybody, but then she sticks around with the same people for months. And it's like, but you didn't want that.
Yeah, but I think the key thing that's missing here for her is that there's an element of the human experience that she hasn't experienced yet, and that is falling in love. And she's teased with it every time she's meeting these people, and not even a love
But she didn't want that.
a romantic love. No, what she didn't want is to be stuck as somebody's property. She didn't want to be stuck in the same village.
But when you're in love with somebody, you're stuck with somebody.
You're stuck with somebody, but you're not stuck and not living life. And so what she wanted was this experience of some sort of love, because she doted on her father because that was the really only love in her life. And then there was this patron, or this other motherly love from Estelle, but there was never like this true romantic love. So when you're living through this life and you're lonely, and she is so lonely.
Yep. And you know what? But the key word is untethered. The key word is untethered. And love tethers you to the world.
That's fine, but she still wants to experience that. And then that's why Henry is so important, because she experiences that and then she's done. She's experienced everything.
But she doesn't say she loves him. She tells him she loves him, but she says she's not sure.
I know, because she didn't really love him. But what she got was that human experience from Henry. She got a human experience of love. She was never going to love Henry. She's never going to love Luke.
But that's where I disagree with this whole thing. Like, love isn't the storyline for me. I know it is for you. And that's why I think we see this differently, because to me, this isn't a story of love. This has nothing to do with love.
No, I wouldn't say it's a full story of love.
And I don't think it's what we've talked about too. What drives Addie for me is she wanted, and this is why I feel like she doesn't have accountability for her wording for her curse. The untethered part is important. And she didn't want that. She wanted to be freedom. And I agree with her. I think that freedom was great. The choice to say that. But my problem is I feel like she says one thing, she's not consistent with it. 300 years later, she hasn't grown to understand that untethered is a big part of being tethered is a big part of love. And when you want to go the world and travel the world to be untethered, you're going to have to do that, possibly with just the bare minimum of your curse. And she didn't, in my opinion, understand that there is a beauty in being untethered and her curse. She just still kind of held herself to those moments where she was tethered.
Yes.
And I think that's preventing her from being the free person that she wanted.
I think that, and I agree with you there. And I'll say my point of view is that all Addie wants to do is live life and experience things. And that is, and in her point of view at 23, wanted it to be untethered. Yes. I do think that she still wants to be untethered, because but what she wants is the experience. So when she meets somebody like Henry, she has the experience of being in love, but she doesn't want to be tethered to him. She doesn't want to be tethered to Luke. So I do think that at her core, she doesn't want to be tethered. But she still wants the experiences. So that's why she keeps going back, because at the end of this, right, she has been made to be lonely. The only other person in the universe that sees her is Luke. Yeah. And so I don't think that she wants to be tethered to Henry. I know that she knows it's not love, but she just wants that experience.
Yes, and I agree with that. And I think she should experience it. I think the way she goes about it is a little bit... certain people, I'm like, it's like, oh yeah, that makes sense. But then like, there's one or two people in this book that when she goes about it, I'm kind of like, the Toby thing didn't bother me. Like, even though she spent time with him, it wasn't necessarily that I was bothered by that. It was, no, she's the knowing party in these relationships. And she constantly goes back to them. I'm minorly disgusted by the idea of it. Only because I feel like she's taking the same thing from them that she didn't want taken from her. It's her time to have freedom of choice. And I feel like, in some degree, they no longer have freedom of choice because she knows how they're going to feel about her, and she sways their mind by constantly learning about them. And I would feel gross about that if I know somebody and I'm catering myself to fit their image to get that night from them. And I'm minorly disgusted by that. If she were to just not do that and just enjoy their time with them, I would be fine. But I understand. And like you said, I can't fault her for that, because
it's 300 years of being lonely.
It's and you just want, but I feel like you should just move on to the next person. But she does want, and also she's just hoping, somebody needs to remember me. Somebody just,
because she's lonely.
Yes. And I understand that, but that is where I come in and say, that is what's stopping you from your own freedom. And now because of that, you are holding yourself back to the greatness that you possibly
But I feel like you can't expect somebody to, because the way that Luke did this to make everybody forget about her made this become a central thing, right? So her focus started to be untethered. But now that she is lonely, Now she wants the human connection. Now she needs that because it's been taken from her. So it started out as untethered. And I still think at the core it is untethered, that she wouldn't want to be married to anybody. But now she's so lonely that she needs this from somebody. Now she wants to. And I don't know that it's holding her back so much as it's just now become what it is. Like, you can't expect to go 300 years with nobody seeing you but some fucking master manipulator, and then to not want to feel that from somebody. And I don't know that it's holding her back. It's just, this is what happens.
I think it's holding her back because she's still yearning for that. And so
but do you think after 300 years of nobody knowing and seeing who you are, nobody actually having any sort of care for you, whether or not it's romantic or not, but nobody cares for you?
I'm not saying that it's not a shitty thing. I'm saying she wanted this. And this is why I keep going back. She made this deal. She wanted this. And this is why you shouldn't make decisions so young. Okay? I'm going to put this out there. This is why you shouldn't make life-altering decisions at a young age, because then you have to deal with the consequences and hold yourself accountability. Mm-hmm. And that's where my problem lies. She doesn't hold herself to what she made for a decision when she's young. Look, I get it. It sucks. You're in a shitty position. Make the best of it. And I think in some way she does. Mm-hmm. And it is shitty that she's lonely. But like at the same time, there needs to be, I don't feel like she holds herself accountable for her decision making, for that curse. And I think she blames everybody else, especially the person, you did this to me. You just like, yeah, he did. Look, you were the one who came to him. You were the one who came to him.
Yeah, and I think she knows that. She knows she made the mistake. She does say she was naive, that she realizes later.
Yeah,
it's a throwaway line of like, later she'll understand that this was the mistake that she made.
I think.
But she can't sit there and dwell on, I made this mistake. I made this mistake.
Okay. Yeah, I agree. She shouldn't sit there and dwell on it, but she also shouldn't sit there and dwell on him and point the finger at him every time.
Yeah, well, then he shouldn't be fucking coming back every time. Are you done yet? Are you ready? Are you ready to go?
Well, he makes the comment, why wouldn't I do this? I get something. I know, but then his sole desire is to get her soul. So why wouldn't he fuck with her?
But then I'm saying, yes, I get that that's his sole desire. But then of course she's gonna come up and say every time he baits her, she's gonna fucking say, you fucking did this.
She should no. I disagree. I think at that point it should just be like, no, go away, because that's all she has to say, and he would go away.
Yeah, well,
I don't think the conversation is.
She has to rile that spite back up in herself to keep herself moving forward.
And I think that's where I get like, this is stupid. That's where I get irritated, because it's the same shit. And it's just like their conversations are always the same, and it's like. Ugh.
But I think a lot of it, like her spite, her bringing that up, and her spite is to remind herself, which she does more as their relationship progresses too, that he is a monster. He is not a human. He's not somebody to have a love. But I think she does that and keeps having these conversations to keep reminding herself so that she doesn't fall for him. Because at the end of the day, this situation that they have together, her and Luke, is like the master manipulation system.
Oh yeah,
he's
dressing like her,
but he's dressing like her fantasy, and he's literally coming to her being like, you're not enough. Nobody cares about you. Nobody knows about you. And it's only me, baby.
and see, that's why I'm disgusted by that too.
Yeah, I hate him.
I'll tell you why I'm disgusted by that, because she also does the same thing with other people around her. She ends up painting her picture of what these people like in order to get what she wants out of them. And he's doing the same thing to her. And it's like, she's just doing it on a minor level. These people actually want to spend time with her and do stuff, but she's learning about them, painting the picture of who she is to them, for them to like her and all this other shit. And then he's doing the same thing. So it's like...
But it's different, right?
It is different.
It is different.
But it's on some basic level, they're doing the same thing. It drives me crazy.
Yes, I would say on a basic, but she's a product of the environment that she's put into, and this is all she could do. He is just doing this just to fucking do this.
But she gives him shit about it. Like, you're looking like the guy I want. And he's like, well, it's because to ease your mind. And then she's just like, yeah, but aren't you doing the same thing to ease other people's minds, to get in their beds and to be in their houses and to steal their money? You're seducing guys, drugging them, and then taking... mind you, those guys want to be there, but like it's the same kind of basic thing.
It is the same kind of basic thing.
It kind of bothers me, and it's like,
but the root of it is different.
Yes, it is.
And
but
so
the actions are still the same, and so it's like almost like you're calling the pop.
But she's not proud of it. She's not happy that she's doing this.
No, but like she's giving him shit about it. It's like how. That's where I'm just like, ugh.
I get that she's giving him shit about it, but. Again, it's because he's doing this voluntarily. And yes, there is an argument to be made. She is doing this voluntarily, but she's a product of this environment that she has to do this.
Yeah, but that's why I'm saying then it's like...
And she could still be disgusted that somebody's doing it. I mean, you could be like, okay, I have to steal from somebody because I have to fucking live. But he doesn't have to steal from me and he's stealing from me. And I could be upset about that.
But that is his nature, though. He's not a human.
That's fine, but we can still say that that's shitty.
Exactly.
And we can still call him out on that.
And that's why I'm calling these people out on this, why I'm reading it. Because I'm still saying, yeah, sure, they could do all this stuff. but I'm pointing out that they're inconsistent and they're pointing fingers at each other and they're doing the same shit.
Yeah,
so
no,
like,
I mean, I see it, but I still,
yeah.
I still like her and I sympathize with her situation.
Fine. That's fine. My thoughts on it is I'm glad you enjoyed the book.
Yo, I loved it.
I really am, because it gives us that differing point.
Mm-hmm.
My thing is, I'm not saying the book was a bad book. It was just not in the direction, and it's not my fucking, I'm not the one writing the book.
Yeah.
So it shouldn't always go in the direction I want. So when I rated this book, I didn't rate it off of like, is it fantasy? Is it this? Is that? I rated it off of like, okay, so we're talking about a girl who's 300 years. The history wasn't there for me. Like moments were like, I like the artwork was referenced when she would do her art stuff was just fucking fantastic. And maybe I shouldn't have rated it so low based off of these little likes, but ultimately I did not like the book. And that's why I went and did it low as I do. And the reason for that is because of, in my opinion, there is a lot of inconsistencies of the characters. It goes all over the place when it comes to, I don't think there's a progression of character development, in my opinion. And maybe you're right. Maybe it is because she's locked in that. And even if I would have believed that, because they don't say that.
No, they don't.
I didn't take it as that. I took it as a different direction. And so the story didn't seem like it just seemed like, to be honest, if I were to watch this in a movie, I would feel like it was all in the same like time era. Even if she's jumping around in time, it feels like it's still the same spot in time. If it wasn't for like little references here and there and sort of saying the time, the year, I would not know.
I can agree with that she absolutely does not, there's not a progression. There's not a building to,
it's all the same.
This is who she is. But I also think that that's the consistency of it, right? That she's just,
and I mean,
this is just Addie. She's literally, that's all she cares about. The growth isn't there. Right. It seems more monumental when our lives are so short to have a progressive to grow, right? To be better. But for her, it's just like she's living lives in seconds. And so there's no need to grow, even though it would make sense to you've lived and you've experienced all of this stuff. I feel like it would just naturally happen. You think that you would grow.
I think it would naturally happen.
But she's stuck in these games, these same seconds, she's living minute to minute. She's not taking time to. It's weird because she is taking time to smell the roses and look at things because that's the whole point.
And that's the parts I like. I enjoy those parts when it starts to feel like she's around for fucking ever. And I feel like her life is gone faster than some people who've lived 70 years. And that's why it's just like, why are we not, and since we're not, I don't think we should really go into every detail of the book, but we might as well just talk about back and forth every time on July 29th, Luke meets up with her.
Yes.
And certain circumstances happen where he just keeps trying to convince her to take her, like,
to surrender
her soul. And she ends up like saying no almost every time. And during this process too, they grow fond of each other and they end up becoming, wouldn't say love interest. And she doesn't even say, it's mostly just sex and companionship.
Yes. I think it is essentially 300 years. I think for him, it's a possession. It is. And he is obsessed with her as a possession. And for her, it is a product of being alone for 300 years.
Yeah, she even says
at this point, it wasn't 300 years when they first had sex. It was maybe like 200 years, but still.
And she even says, it's not your lips I look for. It's the name falling off of your lips because only he can say her name. And
also, and that's why I had said earlier, I think that the reason she keeps also reminding herself as she does through the book that he's a monster, he's this, he's that, is because it's easy to fall for him because he does say the right things. He plays that villain perfectly and you almost want this to be a relationship. I felt baited for this to be a relationship, but I was reminded through her and through her spite. And sometimes she was just bitterly spiteful just to be spiteful. But I think she was doing it because it's easy to fall for that. It's easy to fall for him, especially because he tells her that he loves her eventually. He tells her, like, he's popping up on their anniversary and they have back and forths. And so he thinks he loves her. Yeah. She knows he doesn't. Yeah. And then she also doesn't want to fall into this. So she harbors this spite every single time so that she doesn't fall for him, that this isn't, because it's never going to be love, because it can never be love because it's not a choice. Yeah. She doesn't get to choose him. And that's
he's
part
not setting her free.
And that's part of, and she's not setting her free. And that's part of what love is, right? When it's hard, when it's easy, when you're fighting, when you're, together, when there's temptation knocking at your door, love is choosing that person. And for Addie, when we eventually find out that Henry also made a deal with him, and then he remembers her, and then they fall into love, is also not love, because both of those things were not, she didn't choose either of those two, so it can never be love. So I love that aspect. of this, and I liked being baited by him, but
no, I agree. I feel like there is the bait. I did enjoy being baited by it. I like the fact that it was dangled in front that there was a possibility. The problem is I feel like when the time came to actually discuss the toxicity of their relationship, I really, because I don't think they should have been together.
Yeah, same.
So when they did kind of like have that back and forth, and he ends up giving her a house to stay in to give her some kind of like stability, thinking that she wanted that, which she did for, she kind of liked the idea of it. But once it started happening, time was getting away from her. And I don't, maybe that's what the author was trying to prove, that this is just a fucking time frame where it just happened and it was going so fast. And maybe, but like, dude, I wanted I wanted her to show the fighting, the arguing, the toxicity between them, because that would have been important for me for the ending. And I feel like because she didn't do that, the ending was lost on me.
Okay.
And I feel like that ending would have been more impactful to me with the way she made the deal. If you would have shown me how fucking toxic it was, that he casted her aside, that he would push her away, but I didn't get that. I got the one time he pushed her away and he didn't see her for years. And the impression I got, the reason why he did that was because she wouldn't surrender. It wasn't because he was mad at her for whatever fucking reason. It was specifically because she wouldn't surrender her soul. And that's why they burned the house down. They did. They burned the house down. They got into a huge fight because he said, he goes, if we could alter, she's like, I want to be free. If you love me, we'd be free. Set me free. And in my opinion, I think she was using that to toy with him to be free. But then she gets mad at him, saying the reason why he was toying with her was to get her to surrender her soul. So I think they were both thinking each other was playing each other in this relationship to get what each other wanted, where his was her soul and hers was freedom. And then at the very end, finally it came out and she's like, you're doing this to get my soul. And he's just like, oh, you're right. Which he's saying he lied. But my thing is they didn't show any toxicity before that. It made it seem like it was fine. In my opinion, I feel like their relationship would have been volatile for her to believe why she made that deal she did at the very end with him.
I don't know. I felt like I could see enough of the manipulation that I didn't need it to be toxic in my face. Like I did, because the end was impactful for me. So for me, I did see that it was manipulative and that it was a toxic thing. And because I saw everything that he was doing as a game, as Addie had seen it. I saw everything as a game, everything that he was trying to do, even though he was saying all the right words and he was doing all the right things. It was always gross to me because it felt like, because he would say things to her like, I am the only one who sees you. You're mine. And that's how he would address her all the time.
Yeah,
so for
my
me,
Adeline. Yeah.
my Adeline. And then it was almost, and then when he said, I love you, it was like, no,
this isn't love.
Because you can't like, rid somebody of all of their friends and family and say, I am the only one who sees you. I am the only one who cares for you. And I know your heart. And he'll say stupid ass shit like that. And for me, that was enough of a manipulation for me to understand, for me to feel impactful at the end. I did get that. And it was perfect because I also saw Henry. The two relationships that they have, which is Henry and the main ones, Henry and Luke, they're so opposite of each other. So because they were so opposite, you could see what the real love was versus really what the fake manipulative love was. And then I understood the decision that she made.
So the only thing is the decision she made, I agree. So we just kind of skimmed over it. Henry made a deal with Luke, and that's why he can remember her. Yes. So Henry can remember Addie, and they end up having this relationship that ends up feeling comfortable, love, healthy. You know, when he invites her to stay, it's so she has a place to be and feel comfortable. When Luke invites her to have a house, he invites her as in like, this is your possession and I know where to find you.
And I've had this power all along to help you. And I watched you die and freeze on the street over centuries and centuries. But now I find it's in my power to do it. So I'll do it. Like,
only because you are letting me.
Yes.
Whereas Henry would have offered it regardless.
Offered it right away. They had been together like a week or something. Maybe not believe in that a couple days.
So there is, and I do see the way that it's told isn't, so how do I say this? The parts of the story are there for me. I just feel like there's something lacking. So the idea of her making that deal, it wasn't the deal in itself that she made. It was just, it didn't make an impact because of the word choice that she used.
Okay.
Her word choice was, he will cast me aside the minute he doesn't want me there. Problem is I feel like now that he feels like she agreed to surrendering in a form, he's not going to, because now he all of a sudden, and also I have a problem with the idea, whereas if she's going to torment him to get him to cast her aside, why not start right away?
Yeah, I don't know.
That bothered me. It's like, okay, cool. If that's what you believe, which I believe that deal was fucking shit. And also 300 years later, you dealt with this man for so long, you still don't understand how to make a deal with him. I feel like the deal was still too fucking like, it's not good enough for me with the word choice. The idea of he will cast me aside if he doesn't want me. It's like, okay, well, sure. But then why not start giving him shit? The deal's already made with Henry. He's safe. So the deal was that as long as you want me by your side and you don't cast me away, that Henry remembers me. And he gets his soul. Yes. That was the deal. You can have me for as long as you want me by your side. No, cast me aside. Well, then start fucking pissing him off.
She's got all the time to do it. She's not in a rush.
I think she's relishing in the idea of trying to like, well, I'm going to fuck with you now. But
she's got to make her plan.
Sure. I mean, great. But I think now she's become just like him in a manner of speaking. She's going to torment him to as much as he's tormenting her.
I think absolutely.
And I honestly would rather read that book.
Yeah, that would be a good one.
So yeah, I mean,
I did. Okay, so my feelings about the end of this were I liked the deal that she made, and as I had said that
the beginning deal or the
end deal, the end deal for Henry's soul. So we have Henry's soul that had he gave it a year.
That's right. It was
deaths was a year, and they met in like March, so they only had until
I think they even had less than that. It was like 6 months.
Yeah, until like I don't know. Addie and Henry had a short amount of time together. But what I loved about the relationship with Henry and Addie, and she sums it up really good in the end, is that because I love Henry. I love Henry so much because he would do things that like that when you love somebody so much that you're paying attention to them all the time, that you anticipate things. And so, for instance,
that is a cute thing.
He would do that all the time. And it just like filled my heart with butterflies every time.
The one with where she just got really excited about something and immediately took off work.
Yeah, that. And then also when she's like, she tries to like paint her finger. They go to an exhibit and she's trying to like paint. Yeah. And then she paints and then it goes away. And as she has the thought about how sad that makes her, he's already got his hand in the paint and given his hand to her, because she can essentially take his hand and like paint with it, and they end up like writing and things like that together. But the fact that he's in his intuition is that was the version of, I mean, to me, that is what love is. When you care about somebody and you can see that. But it's in these small moments, and he does it with Robbie too. When they go for his birthday, Robbie is like, I'm going to go get us some beer. And she thinks, oh no, Robbie's going to come back and he's not going to remember me. And already Henry is like, no, I'm going to go get the beers, because he already is knowing. Yeah. So for me, those are the things that made up their relationship, that made it look like love.
Yes.
But she sums it up in the end with Luke, in that, because Luke says that he loves her, right? That's his whole thing. He even says, I need you. Like, those are the things that he says. But at the very end, she sums it up with that she studied Luke for so long that she can see his different moods based on his eye color. Like, that's how much she's studied him. That's how much she knows about him. That's how much she's observed him. And that's something you do when you love somebody, as Henry did. But he has not even studied her at all to notice that how she's feeling about the deal, and that her plan is to essentially get casted aside. Yeah. And so that to me shows you that, and that's why she gave up her soul in the end, because she may not have loved Henry because she didn't have the choice to choose Henry, to love him. It was just part of the overall puppet game that was going on. Yeah. But he gave her what love was in the time that he did. So as a thank you to him, because she couldn't return the love, was to give her soul.
And she said she wanted 2 things from him, because he actually ended up writing her stories down.
Oh my God, I love
which was sweet. So she asked for 2 things. It was to remember her and to live a happy life, which, you know what, even if she didn't love him, the idea of selling her soul for this particular man, for this, because he was
for
a
what
great
he
man.
gave her.
I agree wholeheartedly. I don't think she should have made I really believe she should have made the deal. I just hate the circumstances of the deal.
Yeah.
I think he's a great guy. It took, and which this is shitty, but to be honest, it took because he was actually suicidal.
He was.
So it took his deal for him to appreciate life and meet Addie.
Mm-hmm.
Addie's stories of travel, and even though, in my opinion, a lot of her stories were... The thing is, too, we got to remember that The Invisible Life of Addie was a book written by Henry. From Addie's stories. So
because he wanted her name out there to be seen out there.
Yeah.
Her name is on every page. She reads it. I fucking love it.
And it says, I remember you.
And that's somebody who was really in love with her.
So the problem is I have with this, I know, I don't want to ruin this for you.
It's okay.
The problem I have with this is this book, his story that we were reading and just the epilogue was that's fine. Okay, cool. Mm-hmm. That's probably why all those missing pieces that I feel like are lacking is because she didn't tell them to him.
Yeah.
Because she was even a spy. What?
We got a little taste of that.
Yeah, I would have loved that. And that's the stuff I was feeling
But they only had 6 months to write this story.
I understand. And so it took me this whole book to understand that. But then I was still like, I'm missing so much of her story. Mm-hmm. So if we were going in that route, maybe I would have fucking from the beginning. But by the end of the book, I was already like that. So I can't go back to being like, if I would have known and I would appreciate. But even there's books that you don't know, and until the very end, you're like, oh, I could appreciate it more. No, I didn't. And I'm like, I don't appreciate that. I don't appreciate that. Now this is the book he wrote, and whatever. But it's good for the storyline.
It is good for the storyline. It was so good. And then another piece that I liked about the ending is that he thought about how he was going to end it, because he knew that she made a deal to save his soul, and that he was Addie and Luke are stuck together. And he was thinking, how do I end it? Do I put them falling in love? Do they hate each other for eternity? And he decides he's not going to write it because that's not the story that he knows.
And Bay gets pissed off.
And I'm sure maybe readers get pissed off, but I love that the actual author of this book didn't end it either. She left us, or he, I'm sorry, I don't know. They
Gabrielle
left us not knowing what the ending of these two are either, which some authors don't do that and they like to tie shit up in a bow, but I like that this is left up in the air.
Yeah. So I'd like to just add a few things before we get into our review. Characters I fucking hated in this book, and characters I loved. So I loved Remy, which is a total side character, but I really I liked him even though it was a heartbreaking moment at the very end. So Remy, she's disguised as a man and walking the streets, right? And she bumps into this guy, and he ends up realizing that she's a woman. And he just takes her on this adventure throughout the town in the day.
And he's with friends when he first meets her. And he's like, go away.
Yeah, he takes her to a cafe. They do and he plays along with her being a man. And she calls him Thomas. And then finally she gives her name, I think, Maddie.
Yeah.
And they end up going back to his. So the cute thing is he's like, let me walk you to your place. So she takes him to a place that's not hers. And then she's like, let me walk you to yours. And so she does. And then they end up having sex and into all this.
Yeah.
And then at the very end, they're cuddled. And at the very end of the night, he wakes up and not remembering. In fact, he gets startled. And he tells, I confess, I don't know who you are. Whatever. Did we have a great time? And whatever. And as she's turning to leave, he puts his hand on her shoulder and he puts coins in her hand, thinking that she's a prostitute.
It's the worst.
That ruined it for her too. So I think at that moment, that was the moment she realized, I'm not going to have these relationships with people no matter how hard I try.
And she really liked Remy. She was like, I could picture myself married. I loved him too.
Oh, when that happened, I was like,
I felt like she felt.
So I could tell you right now, when I rated this book, I rated it thinking I wanted to give it a 2 for that moment. I gave it a 1, just so everybody knows. I gave it a 1. But moments like that, I should have given it 2. And maybe I shouldn't have been so harsh now I think about it. Maybe I'll go back and change it to a 2. Because
sometimes you have to sit in it.
Yeah, and even when I was writing the outline, I was just like, I overall gave it a 1 because I would not read it and I overall don't like it. So giving it 2 is almost like, to me, is like, you like it, but it's a meh. I generally don't like this book. I just like moments in the book. So I go back and forth. Maybe I should give it a 1.5. But Also, I hated Robbie.
I hated Robbie too.
I fucking hated Robbie.
But it was rough though, because I hate Robbie, but like also he's stuck in the curse in Henry's curse. So it's like the way he was acting was horrible, but he was caught in his love with Remy or with Henry.
Yes. Okay, we didn't really talk about Henry's curse. Let's talk about that real quick. Mm-hmm. Henry's curse is he wanted to be enough for people and not loved.
Not loved.
Just to be enough for people. Because initially Henry's was, I want to be happy. Mm-hmm. And Luke told him, I can't even fucking do that. So it was just to be enough. So now everybody finds what they're looking for in Henry. Mm-hmm. He even got a job opportunity from a place he was actually kicked out of. Mm-hmm. Like everybody is glassed.
He has no credentials for this.
He even fucks with them. Yeah. So I like Henry overall as a character for Addie's climax point of making her deal. I like Luke's character because he is the shitbag of the story that taunts her. Without him, I don't think the story would have obviously had a story. My thing is that I felt like I was lacking so much. I felt like the progression wasn't there. I felt the story that could have been there was still like robbed from me for a lot of things, like histories and artwork and the direction that it was going in. I felt like it just stayed at the same level. And I
could see that.
I was bored.
I could see that.
I was bored.
I gave it a 4. I did really like it. I had to sit in it for a little bit. I was going between a 3 and a 4. I was going to settle on a 3.5, but as I was thinking of it on the drive down here, I was like, I really did like it.
Yeah, I think a 4 for you. You like it's really good for you.
I loved the writing. I love the jumping back and forth between the two time frames.
I do like that.
Like getting the collisioning of the worlds as we were getting closer to things. I absolutely loved. Like I love to see how Addie was in the state of mind. I love to see her journey, figuring out the edges of her curse, figuring out how to live in a world where nobody knows you, where you can't get a job, where you can't do anything. Like that was really well done.
I liked that. I did. I liked all that. I feel like I was just missing more of it. Yeah. I wanted more of like her fucking poisoning the guy. Like I wanted more of that. I wanted more of that bulk of the story. Like her fighting for her survival.
At the gist of it, it's not a very it's not an adventure book.
No, it's not. I wanted that.
Yes, and I can see that.
I wanted that.
It's very much just like a simple story about a simple girl and her one wish to just live in the world, and then these experiences that she has stuck in this curse.
The experiences, in my opinion, are secondary to her everyday life. So it's a story about her everyday life, doing everyday things, which I find boring.
Yes.
And so if you're looking for a book with adventure, experience, and learning the curse, I would say is secondary to her actual living a life of what
day to day, because I would agree too that the book is boring in the sense that it is living her life as she's living it day to day, because she doesn't live in past or future. She literally lives in
whatever moment,
the moment. And so you're in that moment with her for these random days, because they are random throughout these years, and you're just in that day with her, and that's what happened that day, and it's not always exciting. But for me, what really kept me super interested is I loved the writer. She would I'm sorry, I keep saying she. I don't know if it's just here.
I think it is. It's Gabrielle.
Okay.
Is it Gabrielle?
I thought it just says.
VS. Gabrielle's another book I'm reading.
They would say things like, in the future, Addie will know to second guess this, or in the past Addie has, or it would always say, I think it would always be more of the future things, like, or Addie would think back on this moment when she's having dinner with Luke about how she thought. Like I loved this whole thing. I loved it. I absolutely loved it. And for me, that's what made it interesting and not boring. Like it wasn't an adventurous, action-packed story, but the writing was like poetry to me, and I just gobbled it up. And then we get to a different POV, even though it's third person.
Yes,
I would say, but we get Luke's side, and that was very interesting. And seeing his home life, and the thing with Henry, Henry's home life, and I liked Henry's kind of backstory. There was a thing in there that she had said that just reminisced with me, which is why I think I connect really well with Henry, is because Henry struggles with not knowing what he had wanted to do when he was young, and then spending his whole life going through there. And I feel like I have that same feeling of like, I want to do everything, and then picking one thing means that I can't do all of these things. But by the time I decide what I like, it feels like it's too late to do it, because I didn't know what I wanted to do at 5. And that's what that's the catalyst to his depression, because that means that he's not doing anything. And then I don't have siblings, but he's got siblings that are doing all of these great things that did have that. And I feel like that's a very realistic feeling, and I think it was depicted perfectly, and that is all attributed to the author.
The Henry thing, okay, so I want to talk about what I was going to say about before. Henry sounds like a beautiful man with lots of friends and family, and I agree. Like, it's his family life and all the things he doesn't know what he wants to do is catalytic to why he made the deal, and his relationship with his fiance was gone. I don't understand how a lovable character, because he's a lovable character, had such shit in any of his relationships. Even his friendships seemed very selfish on their end. So it's like, it confused me in a such where it's just like, you got this lovable character, and maybe that's why. Maybe that's because he or she, the author, wants to make this lovable character where we're just like pining for why is this happening to him? But it drove me crazy because I'm just like, this guy seems like and maybe that's the typical he's got it all, what happened, you know?
Yeah.
But depression hits anybody for any reason. There really is no element to how depression just happens. There is no fucking roadmap to how you get depression and how it goes away. But I felt like there was more to his story as well, like for why things happen. And because it's more of an Addie story than it is his anyways. I just feel like a lot of this stuff was missing to me. That's why I shouldn't read Singlets.
I agree. I mean, we are jam-packing a lot of information into one book.
Yeah.
We can't all be Holly Black and like pack that shit cram.
No, I know.
Because that book was smaller than these ones, I think.
Yeah. No, Holly Black just makes one paragraph the adventure of a lifetime.
Yeah, for real.
But yeah, no, I feel like I am judging this book a little bit harsher than I probably should. But I don't like what I don't like. And I like what I like. And you do too.
Yeah.
And I feel like this is a good start to our season.
I think so too.
I feel like it also is very good from our past books to our present books that we're about to read, our future books, because it's got a little bit of the time jump from Manacles that we've experienced, and also we're going into the Greek mythology with Odyssey or Circe, and so it's like I think this is a really good book, even though I did not like it, and also I didn't like the first book of the first season anyway. So
first book of the second season, already a thumbs down.
Yeah, for me at least.
But that's good though, because we had a lot of 5s.
Yes, we did.
So it's nice to have some variation over here. And the first book we've disagreed on.
Yeah, and I'm glad you like it. I do, because I really wanted to like this book, and I was kind of upset that I didn't. There's bits and pieces that I liked, and I'm glad I liked it for those bits and pieces. But I can't like every book.
No.
So,
but I'm glad we did it. Yeah. I would love to know your guys' opinion about who did you love it? Like me, or did you hate it?
Like first? And who was your favorite character, and who wasn't your favorite character?
Yes. Yeah. My favorite character was probably. Oh, I don't like Luke, but I do like him. Like, he was giving me those teasy vibes, and I really wanted it to be something, but I was happy it wasn't. But but it's us. We like our evil villain. I was like waiting for him to be the one, and I'm like, he shouldn't be the one because he's so toxic, and it makes sense. But he wasn't toxic for her benefit, and that's what makes the villain okay. That's why we can like evil villains, because if you're doing it for your girl, then it's fine. But if you're doing it and not for your girl, then you're an asshole and you're toxic.
Exactly.
No.
The funny thing is, because he was saying the same things a lot of the other books
that's what I was thinking.
But he's not doing it for the right reasons.
But it wasn't love. It was possession.
Yeah.
You are not Draco Malfoy.
Because he's saying mine, and it's like, but I don't like this.
And
line.
I need you. I don't just want you. I need you. And it was like, wait, that's the right word.
That's not the right person.
But it's really not love.
Yeah,
and it is possession. It's a fine line over here, but at least we're smart enough to see it, right? Yes. We don't just fall into it.
Yeah.
You can't just dirty talk us. You gotta do it for the right reasons. But anyways, the next book that we're doing for next week is Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow. I'm excited for this one. I've heard great things about it.
Yes.
It's another singlet. Of course, we're doing them all this month, so it'll be fun.
Yeah.
I'm excited. But we are on all the socials as always. Fable, TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, Spotify.
Yeah.
We're there. We're everywhere. We're back in action now on the start of season 2. Season 2 jazz hands.
Just don't forget to like and subscribe. Follow us so you can always keep track of what we're doing and how we're doing it.
Yep. Keeping up with our shenanigans. Well, we'll see you guys next week.
Bye.